Under the blinding lights of fame, two souls found a connection so deep it seemed almost destined. Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo, names that have become inseparable in the hearts of millions. Their story isn't just about two stars who met on set. It's about the quiet electricity between them, the unsaid words, and the glances that spoke louder than 1,000 confessions. This is the love story that no one saw coming, but everyone felt. It all began on the set of The Untamed. The atmosphere was charged with creativity, nerves, and a kind of energy that only happens when something magical is about to be born. Xiao Zhan, ever gentle and polished, carried an aura of calm and warmth. Wang Yibo, with his cool exterior and mystery-laced smile, was the perfect contrast, like fire and ice, drawn irresistibly toward each other. From their very first rehearsal, something shifted in the air. It wasn't just acting. It was an unspoken rhythm, two hearts recognizing each other in the midst of chaos. The first scene that drew them closer wasn't even meant to be emotional. It was a simple exchange of dialogue, but the moment their eyes met, time seemed to hold its breath. The crew noticed it, a spark that couldn't be directed or rehearsed. The director, pretending not to see, simply called, "Cut," with a smile that hinted he knew something extraordinary was happening. Off camera, they began as friends. Xiao Zhan would often tease Yibo about his serious demeanor, and Yibo would counter with witty, quiet remarks that made Xiao Zhan laugh uncontrollably. Their chemistry wasn't loud. It was subtle, flowing like an undercurrent. Fans watching interviews could sense it, a secret language built on glances, half-smiles, and small gestures. When Yibo would hand Xiao Zhan a bottle of water before he even asked, or when Xiao Zhan would adjust Yibo's mic quietly before a shoot, it wasn't just care. It was affection in disguise. There was one evening, long after filming had wrapped for the day, when they sat on the rooftop of their hotel in silence. The city stretched before them, lights shimmering like a sea of stars. Yibo, usually quiet, said softly, "You make everything look easy." Xiao Zhan turned, surprised. "And you make silence feel like music," he replied, a smile tugging at his lips. That moment became the invisible thread between them, fragile but unbreakable. When The Untamed aired, their bond exploded onto the global stage. The world fell in love with their on-screen chemistry, unaware that behind those scenes were real moments of laughter, comfort, and something deeper than either had expected. But fame is both a blessing and a curse. The more the public loved their connection, the more it was dissected. Rumors began to swirl, and whispers filled the internet. Yet neither of them ever denied or confirmed anything. They didn't need to. Their actions spoke louder than statements ever could. During one fan event, Yibo stood a little too close to Xiao Zhan, their hands brushing, just a second but enough for fans to gasp. Xiao Zhan's gentle glance toward Yibo wasn't scripted. It was filled with warmth and quiet understanding. Later that night, fans posted clips titled "The Look That Said Everything." Behind the scenes, they faced challenges. Fame demanded distance, rumors demanded denial, and society demanded silence. Yet somehow, they found ways to stay connected, through shared projects, surprise visits, and private conversations that no one knew about. There was a night after a long awards ceremony when both found themselves in the same dressing room, tired but content. Xiao Zhan handed Yibo a cup of coffee and said softly, "Still think we make a good team?" Yibo took a sip, smirked, and replied, "The best one." The cameras might not have caught that, but their hearts did. Every performance after that, every smile, every stolen glance on stage, carried the echo of their unspoken bond. During a live concert performance, Xiao Zhan sang a song that seemed ordinary to the crowd, but was full of meaning to one person standing nearby. When he sang the line, "You're the calm in my storm," his gaze lingered for a second too long on Yibo. Fans screamed, but Yibo simply lowered his head with the faintest smile, the kind of smile that says, "I know." As years passed, both rose to greater fame. Solo projects, endorsements, world tours. But every once in a while, they'd cross paths at industry events, and that same spark would reignite. During an awards show red carpet appearance, Cameras captured the exact moment Yibo subtly reached out and steadied Xiao Zhan as he almost tripped on his coat. It was quick, natural, instinctive, proof that some bonds never fade. One unforgettable night, during a charity gala, Xiao Zhan performed a heartfelt song titled "The Light I Found." The lyrics spoke of gratitude, fate, and a love that needed no words. In the audience, Wang Yibo watched quietly, his expression unreadable. But when the song ended, he was the first to stand and clap. Their eyes met across the hall, and for a fleeting second, the world disappeared. The rumors about them never stopped, but neither did the admiration. Fans coined them Zhan, a symbol of love that transcended boundaries, norms, and expectations. Even when they drifted into separate worlds, people still whispered their names together. There were reports of them being spotted at the same cafe, the same airport, always avoiding cameras but never escaping the gaze of destiny. In private, their connection deepened. Late-night calls became their refuge. Simple check-ins, shared laughter, moments of silence that felt like home. Xiao Zhan once told a friend, "Sometimes words aren't needed. Some people just stay in your heart, no matter the distance." And Yibo? In an interview, when asked about his definition of love, he said quietly, "It's when you don't have to explain it to anyone. You just know." Their story isn't one of grand declarations or dramatic confessions. It's a love written in subtlety, the kind that thrives in the quiet spaces between chaos. It's in the way Xiao Zhan's hand hovers protectively near Yibo's back when crowds get too close. It's in the way Yibo's laughter softens when Xiao Zhan says something funny. It's in the comfort of knowing someone understands you even when the world doesn't. And perhaps the most beautiful part of their love story is its mystery. They never confirmed, never denied. They simply were. Like two constellations that seem separate, yet align perfectly in the night sky. Even today, years after the Untamed ended, every time they appear in the same frame, fans feel that same heartbeat, that same spark. Some stories don't need endings, because they never really end. They just continue quietly, like a song that lingers long after the music fades. Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo's love story is not one of perfection. It's one of connection, resilience, and timelessness. They taught the world that love doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers in every glance, every word unsaid, every moment shared in silence. And maybe, just maybe, their story isn't over. Because true bonds, the kind born from respect, laughter, and something divine, never really break. They live on in hearts, in memories, and in the quiet belief that some souls are simply meant to find each other, no matter what. Every love story has a beginning, a spark that turns into something powerful, something that lingers even when the world pretends not to see. For Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo, that spark began quietly, hidden behind scripts, lights, and cameras. But once it ignited, it became unstoppable, a fire that burned beneath the surface of the Untamed and illuminated everything around them. It was the summer of filming, long, exhausting days under the blazing sun and sleepless nights spent rehearsing scenes that demanded every ounce of emotion. Xiao Zhan, always patient and warm, had a way of calming the tension on set. Wang Yibo, young, focused, and reserved, carried a quiet intensity that made everyone around him curious. But when their eyes met for the first time, something shifted, an invisible pull, like two stars colliding in perfect rhythm. Their very first interaction wasn't even during filming. It happened in the rehearsal hall. Xiao Zhan had arrived early, script in hand, humming softly as he reviewed his lines. Yibo walked in, skateboard tucked under one arm, looking effortlessly cool. He gave a polite nod, and Xiao Zhan smiled. The kind of smile that could melt even the iciest of silences. "You're early," Xiao Zhan said playfully. "I don't like being late," Yibo replied, his voice calm, but eyes curious. It was simple, unremarkable, yet the moment carried an unspoken connection neither of them could ignore. As rehearsals continued, they began to gravitate toward each other naturally. Xiao Zhan's warmth balanced Yibo's quiet focus, and Yibo's discipline inspired Xiao Zhan's creativity. Their energy meshed in a way that even the crew noticed. During one particular scene, where their characters had to stand face-to-face in silence, the director let the camera roll longer than usual. The air thickened. The intensity between them was real, almost too real. When cut was finally called, both men stepped back, trying to hide their racing hearts. Xiao Zhan chuckled softly, breaking the tension. Yibo simply smirked, shaking his head, but his eyes lingered. Soon, they began spending time together off-set, not in flashy ways, but in quiet moments. Xiao Zhan loved photography, often capturing sunsets or the soft glow of the set lights. One evening, Yibo noticed him snapping photos and said, "You're always taking pictures. What do you do with them?" Xiao Zhan smiled. "I keep them. They remind me of the good days." Yibo paused, then asked softly, "Would you take one of me?" Xiao Zhan laughed, surprised. "You hate pictures." "Not this one," Yibo said, eyes glinting. That photo, a candid shot of Yibo smiling under the fading light, would later become one of Xiao Zhan's most cherished keepsakes. Their bond deepened through small gestures, the kind of things that seem trivial to outsiders but mean everything when hearts are quietly falling. Xiao Zhan would leave snacks on Yibo's table after long shoots. Yibo, in return, would make sure Xiao Zhan's bike was ready for him after filming. They didn't need to say much. Their care spoke louder than any confession could. Then came one rainy night that changed everything. Filming had been delayed, and most of the crew had gone home. Xiao Zhan stayed behind, sitting on the steps of the set, watching the rain pour down. He didn't notice Yibo approach until he heard the soft shuffle of shoes behind him. "You're still here?" Yibo asked, holding an umbrella. Xiao Zhan smiled faintly, just thinking. Yibo sat beside him, opening the umbrella to cover them both. The rain fell like music around them. For a while, they said nothing. Then Xiao Zhan whispered, "It's strange how peaceful it feels, even with all this noise." Yibo turned to him, eyes softer than usual. "That's because you're here," he said simply. That sentence hung between them, fragile, dangerous, beautiful. The silence that followed said everything they couldn't. That night, something in their hearts changed. After that, every glance carried new meaning. Every touch, no matter how casual, sent waves of emotion. During one particularly emotional scene, Yibo's hand brushed against Xiao Zhan's. It wasn't in the script. The cameras kept rolling, but the real story wasn't being acted anymore. It was real, raw, and visible only to those who knew how to look. Fans began to notice too. Their interactions at press events were too natural, too synchronized. Xiao Zhan's laughter always seemed to come easier when Yibo was near. Yibo, known for his cool demeanor, became more relaxed around Xiao Zhan, playful even. During an interview, when asked who made him laugh the most, Yibo didn't hesitate, Xiao Zhan. The room erupted in laughter, but Xiao Zhan's cheeks turned pink, a soft smile tugging at his lips. As filming wrapped, their friendship, or whatever it had become, only grew stronger. They spent long hours talking about life, dreams, and fears. One night, as they sat watching the sunrise after an all-night shoot, Xiao Zhan said quietly, "It's strange, isn't it? You meet someone, and suddenly everything feels right." Yibo didn't respond immediately. Instead, he reached out and gently brushed a stray lock of hair from Xiao Zhan's face. "Some people are meant to stay," he said. The moment lingered, not loud or dramatic, but powerful in its simplicity. That was their love, understated, honest, magnetic. When the Untamed finally aired, the world saw the magic between them. The effortless chemistry, the tenderness, the connection that couldn't be faked. But only they knew how real it truly was. Every gaze, every smile, every scene carried a piece of their truth. Even after the cameras stopped rolling, that connection didn't fade. It only grew quieter, deeper, like a secret melody that plays only for two hearts. They might not have shouted their love from rooftops, but they lived it in shared looks, gentle gestures, and moments that only they could understand. Theirs is a story that defies the ordinary, A love that never needed validation because it existed beyond words, beyond rumors, beyond the eyes of the world. And maybe that's what makes it so beautiful. Because in a world that demands loud confessions, Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo's love remained sacred, hidden in plain sight, yet undeniable to anyone who's ever felt that same silent pull towards someone who feels like home. Their story reminds us that real love doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just whispers, quietly, constantly, forever. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more captivating tales of love, destiny, and the beautiful connections that time can never erase.